So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm really excited to have Eduardo here today to talk about his BioSCOPE project and implementing it. We discovered in kind of the way we've been promoting the project and talking about it, we've been getting in so much into the nuts and bolts of it, we've lost the perspective of it. And when Eduardo did this presentation to us to show us how he implemented a BioSCOPE project, it really hit us that our approach has been wrong. And so he really talks about the implementation in a different way than we were presenting it. And I think it really demonstrates the scope of the project and what the students gain from it. And so I'm very excited that Eduardo is going to talk about that today. But before we get to that, let's do our round of introductions. And for today's introductions, tell us tell us your name, your institution or organization, where it's located, where you are located, and have you, everybody in here is or has taught, is a teacher or has taught. So have you ever done some kind of a supply chain type project in which you've had students manufacture some sort of a biotech or other product that could get used elsewhere, maybe in another classroom or at a high school or somewhere else? Hopefully didn't go in the trash, but might have also been gone in the trash. So, but anyway, so we'll start with that, and also welcome Angela and Josie. We're happy to have you here. So I'll start. I'm Terry Quinzer, Executive Director of the Bioscience Workforce Development Hub at MiraCosta College. That's in Oceanside, California, which is North San Diego County. And I have been around a lot of supply chain exercises and activities in class, but since I'm not actually I am now an adjunct biotech faculty, but I've taught chemistry in the past, and I suppose we've done supply chain projects that went into the trash, but that was years ago. So I don't do that now. Anyway, so I'll go across my screen. So Dominique, I'll go to you next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique Ingato, and I am one of the co-chairs for the biotech department at MiraCosta College in North San Diego County. And in terms of supply chain projects, I don't think I've participated in any formal one. I do have students sometimes help to make materials for outreach at high schools, but it's not really formalized. So maybe that's something to think about for the future.
Yeah, that's great. And that is in the spirit of,
Yeah.
supply chain and manufacturing. That's really the experience we're talking about. So thanks, Dominique. Michaela, let's go to you next.
Everyone. I'm the Senior Manager of Operations and Partnerships at Biocom California Institute. So really excited to be here. I have taught, but the classes I teach are earth science based, so not really focused on supply chain and biotech. But I do run and have run in the past and currently still support in partnership with Pierce College the Illumina Genomic Discoveries Experience, which is a partnership with Illumina where we create kits to go out to classrooms that are providing teachers with professional development on DNA sequencing and allow students to perform their own DNA sequencing experiment. So I'm really excited about that. And hi, Josie. I got the chance to be in the Bay Area earlier this week and got to see her in person. We ran our Biocom California Institute Life Science Career Expo on Wednesday, and it was great. We had over 250 folks attend. We had over 15 exhibitors, all in the scope of currently hiring life science companies, which was a real just feel good booster with everything that's happening in the life sciences nationally and locally as well. It was just really great to see so many folks excited to hire and having great conversations about potential jobs in the industry. So it was just a wonderful event, and Josie was there. So great to see you.
It was great. It was great. Very well organized, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much to Aloni for exhibiting. So
yeah.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. And BioCom, you guys always put on really great events. So thanks, Michaela. Let's see. So Manny, I see you can't talk. So, but you put your information in the chat. He's a professor of chemistry and biomanufacturing at LA Trade Tech College in downtown Los Angeles. And you have not done any supply chain type projects with your students. So great. I'm glad you're here. And we'll go on to Angela then. Angela next, go ahead.
Oh, sure. So I'm Angela Consani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bioscience Core Skills Institute. I'm in Kansas City, but Terry graciously invited me to these calls during the pandemic. And actually, it was calls similar to this that caused me to lose my job and have to run this organization. So I blame Terry for everything. All Terry's fault. But prior to being the CEO of this organization, I was a college professor at the Kansas City, Kansas Biomanufacturing Training Laboratory. We did simulated supply chain. So needless to say, being in a high school dual enrollment program, we faced some challenges around having that be realistic. But what we did was manufacture significant quantities in a bioreactor of GFP, and then they would carry that out all the way through fill and finish. So we had we purified and I actually have them here. So this is what we manufactured. little jars of GFP, and these are really old and still glowing. So that'll tell you how stable this stuff is. But that did mean that they had to cost out things like the price of the ampules, the price of the equipment, and then we had them do costing, what would be called cost of goods sold, bills of materials and cost of goods sold for their product. And then determining if this was a drug product, I would have them pick an unusual rare disease and then do if we were manufacturing this for rare disease, what would it cost per dose, and to kind of help them understand why manufacturers avoid rare disease and avoid treating it, which opens up a lot of ethical discussions. But yeah, so we didn't sell it to anyone. It didn't go in the trash though. A lot of it ended up on my desk. And the students took it home in their little vials, and but we did not actually end up selling any product. So it was kind of a simulated supply chain. My interest in attending this today, and Eduardo, I really appreciate you being here. We're working on a potential project for the Bay Area in working with Ying-Su Lo around an idea of supporting a supply chain based curriculum around cell and gene, because they are facing such an enormous hurdle associated with costs and the number of humans that go into that and things like that. So we're going to look at some curriculum and some skills badging around these kind of really, really long SOPs that go kind of vein to vein. So I'm super excited to hear about what you're doing.
Well, that's great, Angela. And by the way, I want to make a little connection here because I was talking about you a little bit and what we're scheming, or what you've pulled me into that you're scheming. So payback, right? But anyway, so because Dominique is one of the department co-chairs at Maricosta College. So I just wanted to make that connection. And of course, Michaela, you probably already know Michaela at Biocom Institute. So
Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So yeah. Oh, and yay, Paula. Hi, Paula. I'm glad you're here too.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, and we need to set up a time to talk. I didn't get back
Yeah.
to that, so we can do that for next week. But this is great. So Paula's going to be around too over the summer, and
Awesome.
and
Dominique, I'll reach out and pester you about this separate from this group. We're scheming some activity for August in San Diego, and so I'll loop you in, and Paula as well. That's exciting.
yeah.
Thank you, Angela.
Great. And so Josie, we'll go to you next. We're doing introductions.
I'm Josie Seti, and I work with Terry and in her team in different projects. And I also work with Ohlone College on a apprenticeship program that they have in biotechnology. And I'm very familiar with BioSCOPE since I was the first person to implement BioSCOPE, create, implement, all of those kinds of things together with BayBack.
That's great.
Sorry.
Yeah, Josie and Ying Su, that was actually before she was with Baybeck, wasn't it? Or was she already with Baybeck at that point? But you did this about 10 years ago. And you and Ying Su developed BioSCOPE and then implemented it with some of the faculty in the Bay Area. So yeah, this is the creator of this project. So, all right, Paula, let's go to you. Let's have you introduce yourself. Tell us where you are, who you are, where you work, where you're located, and have you taught any kind of a project where you have students make something that they, for others to use, or, sometimes, I mean, a lot of things they make goes in the trash, but we're trying to fix that.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Terry. Sorry, I have to keep my camera off. I'm Paula. I teach at Miracosta College, biotechnology department. Yes, I've taught many labs, and yeah, students often create and go through many experiments. I have also taught some summer camps where students use like kits to for their experiments and activities. So yeah, I'm very curious to hear the talk today.
Great, thank you, Paula. So now what I'm going to do, Eduardo, we're going to start off having you introduce yourself, and I'm going to have you launch into your presentation.
Excellent. I'm just going to make sure that I am able to share my screen, and then I'll go into the into my introduction. Just making sure that Zoom is behaving, because I think at this point we all know that Zoom sometimes has a mind of its own. All right.
It does. It's coming on. We see that we're seeing that you've started screen sharing, but we're not seeing anything on the screen. Now we are.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for the heads up, Terry. Hi, everybody. My name is Eduardo Ayala. I'm the lead biotech faculty at El Camino College, and we are located in the South Bay, south of downtown LA, and not too far away from LAX. I've now been teaching there for wrapping up my third year. But this is the very first year that our school has been offering biotech classes, and we've had our first cohort of biotech students who are integral to the implementation of our BioSCOPE project. So I'll talk a little bit about the project and what went into it. So our implementation revolved around a STEM event at El Camino College. Every year in March, we invite the community. This is middle school to high school students on up, their parents, really anybody that's curious about, what's going on at El Camino, anybody that's curious about STEM. And we invite them on campus to basically say, hey, we are here for you. We are a resource, and we're excited to have you check us out. And specifically within the natural sciences division, you have faculty that'll put on activities. And I had done an activity previously. It wasn't biotech connected, but it was something that I thought was really cool. I enjoyed, and also something that the leadership of the department is also excited about. And so one of the ideas that I had was for our implementation to actually be, since I was already scheduled to do a workshop, to have it be a biotech workshop targeted towards middle school to high school students, but where our biotech students that were currently in our classes would be participating in the planning and in the execution of. So the actual implementation was the tangible products that they're producing would be we're calling them biotech kits that had the supplies for these middle school and high school students to carry out paper chromatography on dyes from candy, specifically Skittles, for the day of activity for Onizuka Day. But that also meant that they were putting together the kits, validating the raw materials, working on documentation, validating equipment, all these things, beforehand. And then also, I'll talk about, we'll talk about, staffing and getting them to think about, how their participation and the number of folks that we had was critical to actually executing, the vision of this project. So the students actually, volunteered in 2 shifts. So again, the actual hands-on activities that, was age appropriate for these students, had to do with, candy chromatography, and then gel electrophoresis of those candies. And so, the ideas from these, really came from materials that BABEC had already made freely available. So thank you, BABEC team, because this really helped to, elevate, the experience for our students. Because, candy chromatography, really cool, really awesome. But then, the materials that they made available with regards to gel electrophoresis then allowed us to connect that to, to biotech and the things that our students are actually doing in our classes and the industry as a whole. And the other thing is, the dyes from Skittles are really pretty, and gets the participants, excited. These are things candies that they're eating, then actually, seeing the separation by way of paper chromatography, and this is part of our setup. And then having the middle school to high school students actually do the extractions, which was really simple, really, really straightforward. And I'm showing you a couple of slides of, the before and the after for the paper chromatography, and then followed by the gel electrophoresis. And so again, the dye, running on these paper strips looks really cool, but then, the students then are seeing the dyes that they actually extracted, and they're being run on these, from their perspective, these cute little plastic boxes that have, these slabs of Jello-like material, and then, the dyes look amazing. I mean, they just look really cool running. And so then that then was an opportunity for our students to, showcase their expertise and then get these kids hooked on biotech and on science. So we can then talk about higher level, techniques like gel electrophoresis and separation, and then tying that back to paper chromatography, which the students were carrying out as part of the hands-on, activity. So, so as part of this talk, I'm going to be talking about, sort of, the overview and kind of the nuts and bolts of how we, actually, carry it out. So for pre-Onizuka, there were, activities that went into the planning, and, I, along with other faculty members, we participated in a BioSCOPE one-on-one hands-on training at Cerritos College, where, we actually got to see a real-world example of what an implementation could look like. And at that training, in addition to this, incredibly valuable hands-on, experience, we also got to brainstorm, ideas for what an implementation can look like. And I have to say that was incredibly, helpful for us, because one of the things that this BioSCOPE project provides, in addition to the students, is something to the faculty that I think is invaluable, and that is a welcoming, opening, supportive environment where any ideas, any and all ideas are welcome, and also letting us know that the implementation can be unique to your school, it can be unique to your classes. And so having that flexibility then really allows the participants to really take an idea and then run with it, I mean, I have to say that I came in a little apprehensive about implementing a supply chain project because I have, some industry experience, but in my head, supply chain was this unwieldy, gigantic beast. And I'm like, how do I teach this high level thing, And again, because of the supportive environment, we were brainstorming ideas. And then, I went from, how do I implement this? I don't know if I can, to, hey, you know what? It's okay if it's, a smaller scale project, so long as the students are excited, so long as they're learning something, and so long as, we'll talk about this a little bit later, one of the beautiful things is to see the students make the project and then also make the biotech program their own, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. And so, and then, from that, then there was some brainstorming because I had some ideas that I had been pitching to my dean about, Onizuka Day. And I had brought then, these ideas from the BioSCOPE project. So we're going back and forth about, what is feasible? What is feasible? What is in the spirit of the biotech program? What is in the spirit of Onizuka Day? And then in class, then working with the students as far as, well, what is first of all, lessons on supply chain. What is the supply chain? And then, how do we connect that to, this Onizuka Day experience that, that they took, part in. And also then also talking about, well, what does it mean? What does it mean to implement an experience for these middle school to high school students? And then also, once we had an idea of what we're going to do, actually piloting and troubleshooting with those students. Day of, actually having, the kits ready, having the students get there early so that we can prep everything. And then, I have biotech mentors on the right-hand side, at the top. This is something that came from it. It's not something that I came up with, immediately, but ties into, one of the core, principles, for the BioSCOPE project, which is having student leadership. And so taking that and then thinking about, well, again, how can we have the students take, be stakeholders and take ownership? That's where this biotech mentor, idea came from. The hands-on activity for the middle school to high school students, and then student-led presentations, which I thought was one of the fantastic things about this experience. The students were able to showcase their knowledge and experience. And the other thing is just letting the students know from the get-go, A, this is the first time we're doing this project, and B, in science, troubleshooting is critical. So even if something doesn't go as planned, it's okay. We can learn from that experience. And then we did a debrief talking about what worked, what areas we could improve on, and then also, gave them an overview about the BioSCOPE project, the BioSCOPE leadership team, and then also did an intro to the surveys so that the students understood the importance about continuous improvement, really in any field, but particularly when we're talking about a grant-funded project, and then also our responsibility as participants and recipients of resources from these grant funds, the importance of those surveys, as participants. So for the planning, we broke down the planning. So I came to them with these categories, talking about customers, products, staffing, deadlines, marketing, and then materials and equipment. So then, we had we actually had several class periods focused on planning. So I came with this, with this structure, with the skeleton, and then it was a free-flowing discussion. I provided structure for each of these, but then that led into free-flowing discussion. So we talked about, well, what is the audience? What is the audience for Onizuka Day? Who are your customers that are actually going to be using this kits? So then, we talked about, the age group, the number of participants that we expected for each of the workshops. We had 2 sessions, and also talking about negotiation, because initially I believe the number of participants was pegged to the capacity for each classroom. And so, I actually went back with my dean, and, we talked about the number of participants that we could actually serve appropriately, giving the staffing and also giving the constraints of the classroom. And then also feedback from those students, because again, always talking about continuous improvement. Then we talked about the product. And again, initially what I came with was, we're going to make kits, right? But then in these discussions, we started talking about, well, product doesn't actually have to be something that you hold in your hands. A product can also be an experience for these students. And so in addition to the kits, which again had to do with the things that you needed for chromatography, the things that you needed for gel electrophoresis, but as far as the experience, it was, the outcomes for this being something that gets the students, middle school to high school, excited about STEM, excited about biotech, something meaningful, something impactful, but something that came about that was in the back of my head where I didn't, my students beat me to the punch, which is, Onizuka Day was also a great opportunity to get in front of students before they even hit high school, or maybe while they're in high school, to get them thinking about biotech, B, thinking about El Camino as a premier destination for biotech training. My students jumped on that immediately. I mean, they ran with it. They were thinking about, they're looking at that next generation of El Camino biotech students, which then to me made me realize immediately that they're already seeing them invested in this program if they're already thinking about the long-term success of the program, which I was like, wow, you guys are, this is fantastic. And then lab safety considerations, which we'll talk about in a little bit. They also took that and ran with it, and came up with things that I hadn't even thought about. And so without lab safety considerations, this is, really mostly them. I started off talking about what is appropriate for the age of the participants, clearly, mentioned, the risk of, eating in lab. And also, our biotech classes are housed in the chemistry department, specifically in an OChem lab. So then one of the things that they immediately identified was allergies. Because initially I was thinking, we're going to use all of these different candies, M&Ms and Skittles. And then immediately, in talking, they're like, hey, have we thought about allergies? And so then that got us to think about production lines, within a company, and the warnings that are on the labels of candies. Then got us to think about, okay, well then what is an appropriate candy that we can work with? And after, a little bit of research, it's like we settled on Skittles. And then also from a practical perspective, that was just easier, kept the cost down. And then, we were then just focused on, a subset of candies. And so we talked about the challenges, and then, and again, as part of the discussion, we talked about the resolutions, as part of our discussion. And then we talked about staffing, and so initially, one of the things that I was kind of worried about at the very beginning, well before even the implementation of Onizuka Days, how do you convince students to take, an entire day to, work on a project when they have, they have classes, they have other obligations like work, family, some of them are caretakers. How do we get the appropriate number of students? And so, again, in the planning, just the planning process, students get excited, they're getting invested. And so we had that. And then also, I thought about, well, extra credit, these are my students, and, they should walk away with also something that is going to be valuable to them, in terms of, the classes. But honestly, I think even without extra credit, these students, I probably would have gotten pretty close to the same number of volunteers. So we talked about volunteering, we talked about shifts, and also that led to a discussion about the need for having at least a minimum number, or having enough staff to see to realize the vision and to be able to make all of the things that that you hope to make. And at the end of the day, with the focus on the customer and their experience. We also talked about the experience, the experience of the participants and also of the biotech mentors was going to dictate the hands-on activities, what they would be doing. So we decided as a class that clearly the candy dye extractions and the paper chromatography, that was age appropriate for the group. But we then also, discussed about the importance about having the appropriate amount of training and experience to be able to carry out the higher level activities. So say like gel electrophoresis, the preparation and handling of the lab chemicals, and then also, giving the lab lectures. And so that meant that while the students were providing the extractions, were producing them, then, my students were then taking that and using those for the gel electrophoresis demos. So we also talked about deadlines, in terms of assembling the kits, and we ran into a little hiccup, which is some of the materials that we ordered, were delayed. But we also talked about the importance of, and we're able to roll with this because, we had planned far enough ahead that we had a series of deadlines, and gave ourselves a cushion. And so we were able to roll with, delays from receiving materials, from Amazon, without a problem. We talked about the lab lecture assignments, which, I'll talk about a little bit more, so that the students could then prepare, their slides and, have enough time to, at least, have a run through of those slides. The dates for piloting experiments, the rough draft for the lab lectures, and then a walkthrough of what that day up was going to be. And then the big day, which was Onizuka Day, right? Which, again, we had some prep work to do in the morning and set up and just, then executing. We talked about marketing, and again, this came from this discussion. We talked about what kind of marketing and branding was already taken care of for us, right? And so the school does a great job of promoting the activity. There's outreach to local schools directly from our dean, and then we talked about, well, what kind of branding and marketing we could do, day of and leading up to it. So the biotech logo was key and great, and that was one of the really cool things that came out of this activity. Being able to pass out business cards, having flyers, and then then word of mouth about the activity leading up to and then during the event. We talked about budget. We talked about how the budget was approximately, I said, about 100-ish. It ended up being about 130, which led to, well, what are the costs of the materials? What are the costs of the materials, and the cost of any other associated equipment that we needed to purchase? Again, ordering lead times, and then how do you store some of these things? Like say the gels. Ahead of time, so you're not making everything on site. We did make gels day of, but we talked about the potential for pre-pouring gels at the earliest stages when we were thinking, well, maybe we're going to have the students actually load the gels. But again, in our discussions, we came to this agreement that, well, maybe the gels aren't an appropriate thing for middle school to high school students to be doing, that have never had an exposure to these activities, and also with the time constraints in mind. So we talked about ordering and the logo stickers, which were ordered by Yingsu at Beibik. Thank you, Yingsu, which were fantastic, which was something that really made this experience their own. We talked about ordering of raw materials over here on the left-hand side. These are all the components that went into the kit, and I'll show you a picture of that in a bit. But these are really simple materials that then are easily assembled, but also lend themselves to in-class activities that we did having to do with documentation, and then also with quality control concepts. Again, something really simple can be really powerful because, the students are able to, conceptualize this really easy, but then, elevate, these materials into something that they can associate with things that are made in the biotech industry. And then we talked about things that we already had that we didn't have to reorder. So the students are thinking about, resource management. Why order things that we already have? What things can we leverage within the department, within our classes? What things can we borrow, from, say, other faculty members and our wonderful technical team at El Camino? And then, again, we talked about the lab lecture assignments. And I have to say that the lab lectures, the student-led lab lectures, were something that warms my heart to see this in action. So the idea for the lab lectures came from something that is core to what I saw at the BioSCOPE professional development, and that was, in addition to the hands-on training, in addition to all the wonderful materials that are provided, and I'll show you an example about that in a bit, like SOPs and batch records, is that the BioSCOPE team really is thinking about, well, basically, it's not uncommon for each of us that are biotech faculty to be a department of one and to be juggling, 10 different things at the same time. And the BioSCOPE team really encourages us to leverage our students to help take some of that load off of us by empowering them. And by empowering them, again, they're making the program their own. And so, one of the things I was thinking about as I'm putting together, the slides for the, initially I had a run through of the lab slides, was like, wait a minute, the middle school to high school students, they're not coming here to get a 45-minute lecture from an El Camino professor. They're here for an experience. But instead of having me give a 45-minute talk, wouldn't it be wonderful to have my students have a series of mini talks that intersperse the hands-on activities? And so that's a load off me, and also frees me up to take pictures and, to be, circling about just to make sure that everything's running smoothly. But also, what a wonderful opportunity for my students to showcase their knowledge, the things that they've learned and are excited about, and then share that with middle school and high school students, which are that next generation of, biotech students, and then, biotech professionals. And this logo, this was completely unprompted by me. As part of the planning sessions, at the end of one of the planning sessions, next thing I know, one of my students says, "Hey, we designed a biotech logo." And I was like, what? This is amazing, and so he shared it with me, shared it with the class, he was working with the small team, and he shared it with the rest of the class. And this is when I saw this, and this is when I had this moment of like, these students have made their program their own. I provide no input for the logo. They just ran with it. They're like, we're gonna have a logo. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so this is actually, the logo that was used for the basis for the stickers that Yingsu, ordered for us, and that, we had in time for Onizuka Day, right? So again, this for me is like, they've made the program their own. And so this is these are the kits that we prepped, really simple kits. And so have all the components that I mentioned in a couple slides back. But so the students had a batch record, and this is a batch record that we modified based off of materials that the BioSCOPE team provided to us. So again, in addition to having a hands-on activity, in addition to having support, in addition to having feedback about our projects, they're also providing us with batch records and SOPs, and having those materials is huge. Because then we can, adapt them to our needs. And so we were able to adapt it into something that the students were able to use to build the kits, document that, and then again, do QC on the kits. As an aside, one of the components were, biotech stickers that are ordered on Amazon. And as part of the QC process, the students found very quickly that QC wasn't being done on the stickers themselves from the manufacturer. Some of the stickers are really cute and fun, like you get that, that smiling E. coli, but some of the stickers were like really edgy. Like you had inappropriate language. Like I think one of them was, Bill Nye says F you something. And I was like, why is this in this bag of stickers? And so my students immediately went through, did the QC on the stickers, and they kept the edgier stickers. And I was like, have at it. You guys have a good time. But they're having fun as they're assembling, and they're learning about documentation. And then also, we had printed labels in the upper left-hand corner that said who made these kits. And, we borrowed, this logo, the logo, we borrowed, the spirit of prepared by students for students. That's we didn't come up with that, but that's something that we've seen in this community of practice. And then we also had lot numbers, so students then were learning about traceability. And now my PowerPoint's a little slow. Moving on to the next slide. And I think it's because the images are so big. There we go. Right, so now onto the pictures for the Onizuka Day implementation. So this is my students. These are my students getting the classroom ready, setting up the stations for gelophoresis, and also cleaning up and putting out the buffers. And then in the middle at the top, you have the high school and middle school students. In this case, it's all middle school, sitting down, hands-on activities, and then standing up are all of the, or all the biotech mentors that are participating, and then their parents all the way in the back. And so again, my students are filtering, making sure that the students answering questions, and then helping them along with any issues that they had. And in the lower right-hand corner is something that I love. I had put out equipment, pipettes, PCR machines, and pH meters. And in addition to the gel electrophoresis demo, I had students that were available where all this equipment was out, so that as the students completed their activities and as they're leaving, they're getting a chance to ask questions about these cool pieces of equipment. And then my students, again, are sharing what they know about biotech and how this equipment works. And then, doing these impromptu discussions, about really any questions and anything the students had. And then these are pictures from the student lab demos. And again, the students made their own slides and got to pick the topics that, really resonated with them, that connected to Onizuka Day. And each of them were talking about a particular topic, like say, food dyes, gelophoresis, chromatography, and then the talk at the bottom, then connecting that into, well, how can we use these techniques to study human diseases? How does that connect into cell biology, for example? And just killer presentations, they nailed it. And the students, you can see them at the bottom, the middle school to high school students. I mean, they are really interested. They're really engaged, because, my students, really great speakers, and so they got that experience also of public speaking, and then developing that confidence of getting in front of a group of people. And so here, this is one of the pictures that we took at the end of the day. And what you'll see is that, the stickers that Yingsu ordered for this, with the student designed logos, that became branding for us, because we don't have, you know, branded lab coats yet. So what we did is we took the stickers, put them on, and then boom, instantly we had El Camino branded lab coats, so that, you know, as they're going around, middle school to high school students are like, oh, El Camino Biotech, El Camino Biotech, you know. And, you know, smiling faces, everybody here is happy. And at the end of the day, you know, for me, that's one of the things that I was really excited about. The students, at the end of the day, the really long day, a demanding day, they're excited and they're happy. So in terms of the debrief, these are some of the, you know, things that we talked about. You know, what did you learn, you know, from each of these things, you know, from creating experience to teamwork, all the way to quality control. And then I was also asking them, you know, what's not on this list. So as far as what worked, from my perspective, was the student investment throughout the entire process, from planning to execution, because they had ideas as we, you know, as we were actually carrying out Onizuka Day, the activity, they were coming up with ideas. They were tweaking things here and there, but, you know, in collaboration with me and the other students. The biotech mentor roles, amazing. Student-led presentations, amazing. And the students really liked the lab equipment demos. They thought that really resonated with the participants. They also liked the student presentations, and they also thought of it as a great recruiting opportunity. What improvements, what things that, you know, didn't go quite as planned? We ran out of time to stain the DNA gels. And so, you know, we were coming up with ideas for what we can do next year. We ran the gels with DNA, but we, you know, we had sample gels in PowerPoints. And student suggestions down in the lower right-hand corner, you know, these were things that I wrote down, they wrote down, and I took down, on how to specifically and improve the activity. So, I mean, this is at the end of the day, you know, long day, and they're already thinking about, you know, next year, what can we do? How can we secure funding? And I really like the one at the bottom was, you know, the Polaroid. You know, they were like, hey, you know, maybe we take pictures, you know, in the groups, and then we can share with the participants, and then also would be great, you know, for us, in addition to the pictures that we're that I'm taking as we go around. Immediate benefits from this project. The students made the biotech program their own, like from the jump, you know, from this BioSCOPE implementation. And that is something that I had wanted for my students from the beginning, but I was like, how do we do that? How do we make the students feel like full stakeholders? And the BioSCOPE project, you know, gave us that. They came up with a better understanding of supply chain concepts, because they learned about it conceptually, right, in class as part of lessons, but then they actually did something hands-on. And then support, like, again, I'd mentioned, you know, having, you know, the students help me, that then frees me up to do other things that benefit our program. Already thinking about Onizuka for next year. You know, the students already had some ideas. I have some ideas. I really like the biotech mentor model, and that's something that I'm looking to implement in my classes, in the second cohort of students, with the cohort 1 students, and then more supply chain concepts for all of my biotech classes. And then lastly, you know, this project would not have been possible without the incredible support of the BioSCOPE team. And, you know, a shout out specifically to Terry, Ying Su, Emily, and Josie. You are amazing. And I can't tell you how thankful I am for everything you've done for me and El Camino and our entire community of practice. Like, this is phenomenal. So thank you so much to you, BioSCOPE team, and thank you for everybody that's here and, you know, tuned in to you know, listen to this talk.
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Eduardo, thank you so much. This has been such an incredible project, and it's been so much fun to watch, you know, how you've taken it and run with it in a way that, you know, you've just been so inclusive. This was your first time doing it, and it would be so easy to just you be focused on you getting through the steps but you brought in the students, you recognized as you went, the opportunities, and you really let the students own it. So I'm wondering, that was 2 months ago now, in fact, 2 months ago yesterday,
Yeah.
that you did it. What differences have you seen in the students since this project?
They are like almost on a weekly basis, like they're not afraid to let me know what improvements they can see in the activities that we're doing in our classes, or improvements as classes as a whole. Where they were a little bit more reserved before, now they're like, hey, we did this, geography activity, for example. And they're like, well, what if we, what if we change, this thing? We noticed that, for example, we were using CyberSafe to stain our gels, and they're like, yeah, we noticed that the gels, they're not staining as well. And so, then that led to a discussion about, like the transilluminators that we just picked up. And they were collaborative before, but I feel like they're even more collaboratives. I can see them working outside of their original groups, and they're just kind of filtering, and about. And again, and the other thing is, like, I have a couple students that are promoting the program unprompted by me. Like, one of them came back and she's like, yeah, all my coworkers are miserable, and I'm telling them about biotech and that this is the way. And I was like, oh my God, all right. I'm in the middle of doing, my promotions on campus, going to different classrooms, and to her tell me that, like, she's, doing that, outreach outside, I was like, amazing, and they would, and that's the thing, is that I think they see what they're learning in our classes as valuable, and they would see that, say, without the BioSCOPE project. But I think having the BioSCOPE project under their belt, then again, they see the program as their own. And so because of that, now they're like spreading the word, far, far and wide. Yeah.
That's amazing. And, as you know, recruitment is a big problem. And the other part of this program that, so the project that you did, this is kind of the core of the program, but the way we have our ATE grant set up for this project too, is it's also helping the participants, the faculty participants, build relationships with their local high school teachers. Yep. And so Yingsu is going to be running, and Emily are running a boot camp for high school teachers at Citrus College in June, the end of June. And and Eduardo, are you going to that as well? Because the faculty that participate are, participating in some of these boot camps as well, because it's bringing them together with their community high school teachers. And it's helping them make connections and present and talk to the high school teachers about their biotech programs at the colleges. So, but she's doing a few of them, and she'll be doing one later in the summer, I think, up north. Yeah, but no, this is so, it really is an amazing tool for and using the students in this way to help promote your programs, because that near peer connection around biotech, like you said, as a faculty, you weren't going to, you could have lectured to everybody, to all the visitors, but having the students do that took it to a different level in terms of connecting with the high school and middle school students. So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, I think, one of the strengths of the BioSCOPE project, and the way that, you and the leadership that are approaching this, is the flexibility, is the flexibility, and is that support, because I think it's a strength that I could come up with this implementation, but also I'm excited to see, what the other BioSCOPE participants are going to do, because I think each of us is taking it in a slightly different direction. And I think that's wonderful, because then that tells us it's not a one size fits all, you know?
So, and it has the flexibility built in. So
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely. Yeah,
for pointing that out.
yeah.
Thank you. I know we're at about at the top of the hour, but does anybody have any questions for Eduardo?
I don't have a question. I just want to tell you, great job.
Thank
I
you.
have a huge amount of admiration for teachers who centered their learning around the students, and particularly your emphasis on getting the students to own the project and to step up and take control. You know, I think a lot of teachers fear giving up control because things can go a little sideways sometimes if you let them run the show. But congratulations that you empowered them in this way. That's huge. So
Thank you. Thank you so
big
much.
admiration for me.
Yeah, no, this is wonderful. And I want to share something with you really quick before you go, and at least have it on this recording as well. So Eduardo, if you don't mind, I'm sharing your screen. I want to share, and it's also a little promotion, but really what's key is I want to share some of the resources available. We just launched our new website this week and are very excited about it. But it has pages that are key for different groups. So the students, a page for the students, and what's on each page are topics that are relevant to those groups and what are they going to be interested in knowing. But on both the college faculty page and the high school educators page, we have in addition to, you know, on every page, there's links to find a program near you. So we could put in El Camino College here. And it will take us on the map to El Camino College. Let's see right there. And so you can click on that link and you can have there's a link there to their biotech program, the contact information, and things like that. So you can find colleges near you. I also want to show you one other map that's, I think, very exciting. And you can access it on the college faculty or educators page. And on the high school educators page, it's down by, oh, did I pass it? Dual enrollment. Let's see, I might be on the wrong page. All right, I'm going to go over to the college faculty page because I can get to it quickly from there. And here, so we have this high school community college DE articulation map, dual enrollment and articulation map. So when you click on that, and it takes you over to this map we have for the state. Every square on this map is a high school that teaches biotech, and all the pins on the map are community colleges that have biotech programs. If there's an A, that means there's an articulation program in the high schools on the squares. If there's a D, there's a dual enrollment program. And so when you click on it, you'll see the high school and you'll see if it has an agreement, a dual enrollment program, or maybe it doesn't have a dual enrollment program. We'll click on, you know, a high school here in the Central Valley that has biotech but no dual enrollment program. But this can give you, for the faculty here, you can, and this is an interactive map, so you can scroll in and you can look in your area and you could see, so for example, let's see, so here's El Camino College, or wait, no, I'm sorry, that's Harvard College. Here we go. There's El Camino College, and so here you can see the program, and now you can see all these squares are high schools around you that teach biotech on some level. And this came from a database, and it may not be totally up to date. And so we're asking faculty that view this, if you have a program that's missing from here, let us know and we'll get it added. Whether it's a high school program, you know, if you have dual enrollment, maybe you don't have dual enrollment or articulation, but the point is that this map is a resource to you so you can find out where the programs are around you that can you can connect with. So I just wanted to share that much. I'm not going to go into any more detail. There's so much I could talk about this new website. But anyway, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but Eduardo, I really want to thank you for this presentation, and thank you for having done it multiple times for us. But it's really an amazing example and how you've taken it out of the gate and run with it, and you recognized all the components. You're teaching students about all the aspects of a supply chain project, and you're then giving them the opportunities to take it and run with it, and they're paying you back by recruiting people to the program.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A win-win-win.
It really is, and I'm happy to I'm happy to talk about our implementation, because I see it as the least I can do. Just, it's a tiny little bit of, that I can give back for everything that you and BioSCOPE team have given to us. I mean, I kid you not, this is huge for us.
That's amazing. So, and with that, I will add to this recording that we are doing another BioSCOPE workshop this summer. It's going to be at Maricosta College in Oceanside, and it's going to be July 31st and August 1st. And so I'm going to be sending out information in a registration link. I will send a follow-up email. I have to get on the road right after this meeting, so I'm not going to be able to get it out till the weekend, but look for that email, because it's going to have a registration link and information about the upcoming 2-day workshop. And, and I know, I know, Eduardo, I know your nature. I'll ask you for permission, but to share your contact information with the follow-up email so that you can reach out to Eduardo with questions about his experience. And definitely feel free to try this, but we'd love to have you join us in the workshop this summer, and we'll get some information out to you over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to reach out.
Great.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you, Eduardo. That was really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very good.
Thank you, Josie.
Yeah, thank you so much.